Wow. I just thought there was going to be kosher food here. So thank you all so much for having me today. It's an honor to be here. It's no sacrifice to stop on my way home. What I want to do is, for those of you who don't know me, I want to tell you my story. I want you to understand why I do what I do and why what you do is so important as well. Because I am many things. I'm a father of 2 boys, Jacob and David, 2 Jewish boys. I'm a husband, I'm an American, I'm a Republican, but more than any of those things, I am a Jew. Now, I learned this at an early age, and not in the way that you should know. Sure, I went to services. I did not grow up Orthodox. My father is blind. He became a college professor, and I grew up in Kentucky. They used to call me a Kentucky Fried Jew. It was not a term of endearment. It was what they wanted to do to me. And when I was in junior high school, day after day, week after week, month after month, I was targeted because of who I was, something that all of you may understand. But one day after being beaten up, I came home and I told my mom 2 things. The first is I said, "Mom, I will never again apologize for who I am, and I will never again be afraid of who I am." And I've kept that commitment. I went off to college. It was mentioned I went to Harvard. Wasn't any anti-Semitism then, unlike you find now. But it was not easy being a kid from Kentucky, and so I started a company to help pay my way through school, and over the next 22 years, I started, built, and grew 3 separate companies. And at the age of 40, I said that I'd had enough. I'd worked hard enough, I'd created enough success for myself, and I thought that I was done. But God has a plan for us all. Turns out he wasn't done with me. 8 months after I retired, my son, Jacob, came home from school. He's 6 years old. He says, "Dad, I hate math." We're a Jewish family. Had he said, "I hate running," I would have said, "Okay, that's all right. But I hate math, that doesn't work in our family." So I went to the school and I asked the principal what was going on, and he told me I wasn't qualified to have an opinion about my son's education because, unlike him, I did not have a degree in academic administration. I went home, I talked to my wife, and we decided that I would run for the legislature in order to go and fix education in the state of Florida. And I'm proud of what we've done, and I'm going to talk about it, but I did not run to work on issues related to protecting America's Jews. I want you to know that. That wasn't what I was thinking about when I ran. But shortly after I won, a group that ran Jewish day schools in Florida came to me, and they said, "Will you help us get money for security for Jewish day schools?" And I said, "Why would I do this? I don't have a Jewish day school. I don't have a yeshiva where I live. I don't have one in my district. I don't have one in my county. Why would I do that?" And they said, "Because you're the only one who can." Guilt runs deep in our culture, and it worked. And so I went, and I was able to secure the first ever funding to protect Jewish kids who go to Jewish schools in the United States. The first year, it was not easy to do. That's what people don't understand. They fought me all along the way. The only way I got it done was I asked the Speaker of the House to visit a yeshiva in Orlando. He finally agreed to come, and I picked one for a reason. And you all may know some like this. I asked him to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. He wasn't there at 9. He wasn't there at 9:05 or 9:10, 9:15. At 9:25, he calls me very angry. He says, "I can't find this school. Where is it? I'm driving all around." I said, "It's exactly where I told you it was." He goes, "Well, then why don't they have a sign out front?" I said, there's a reason they don't have a sign out front. And he stopped for 10 seconds. And he said, really? I said, yeah, really. He goes, well, then they really must need the money. If I don't have to visit the school, can I just give you the money? I said, sure, $641,000. Last year it was $20 million. But that wasn't enough. When I decided public schools, government schools, weren't right for my son, I put him in private school. And that was something that my wife and I could afford to do because I had lived a very successful career. My parents could not afford to do that for me when I was younger. And I said, it is not right that just because I have been successful, I can get my child the education that they need and they deserve, because education is a miracle. It is what can take you from where you started to where you want to go. So I ran the bill so that in the state of Florida, every child gets every dollar that the government spends on their education to go to any school that they want. And there are thousands of Jewish children going to yeshivas and other schools around the state because of that. But I also said we were going to tackle anti-Semitism. Because if you notice, in the state of Florida, we don't have the same kind of problems that you find in other states. We don't have radicals out blocking the streets and threatening Jews, and there's a reason for that. Because I said, if you target a Jew because you are Jewish, you are going to go to prison, and you are going to go to prison for 5 years. So I had a wonderful experience in the Florida House. I was the only Republican Jew. I ran for the state Senate, and I thought that's what I would do next, but God has a plan. And 2 weeks after the election, President Donald J. Trump asked me to run for Congress. Wasn't something I was expecting. It wasn't something I was necessarily looking for. But I think in this time, in this place, in which Jews are under attack, not only all over the world, but right here in the United States, they thought they needed someone like me. So I thank you. I won my election on April the 1st. I've only been here for 4 months, but obviously I've made a little bit of an impression. 1 month, they put me on the Education Committee because of my commitment to that. And 1 month after I got elected, we had a hearing on anti-Semitism, where we brought 3 university presidents to come before us and to answer questions about why they refused to deal with that problem. That morning, my son Jacob said, "Dad, I think you should wear a kippah today." And I said, "Why?" See, I wear a kippah traditionally during services. I'm not as Orthodox as all of you. I'm not as observant, and I feel guilty when I'm in a room like this. But my son said, "Dad, you should wear a kippah today." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because my friends don't feel safe doing it walking down the street." And you can say that to those university presidents. So I did. I wore it that day, and I told the university presidents that what I have on my head should not be a target. It should be something that we should be able to celebrate. And the reaction was so great. At the end of the day, my son said, "Dad, you ought to continue to do it until every child is safe at every college who wants to wear a kippah." And so I have. I get them every day. This one was on my desk when I stopped in the Capitol. It says, "Keep America Great Again." So you'll see it. But 3 days after I started wearing the kippah, I was the Speaker pro tem of the United States House of Representatives. It's a job where you get to sit in the rostrum and you run the chamber. And while I was up there, an Orthodox family came in. Could have been one of your families, with children 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And they got very, very excited, pointing at me, pointing and talking. They had to get talked to, yelled at by the Capitol Police for talking so much. I couldn't figure it out until I realized what they were pointing at was my kippah. So I asked the staff, has anyone ever worn a kippah before? And they've done research that in the 249 years of the United States, no member of Congress has ever worn a kippah on the floor of the House of Representatives. So I was just in Israel. I just got back. I literally flew here from Israel. And it was important to say, it was important for me to be there to show my colleagues who came with me how important it is to stand with the Jews. It was important for Israel to see it as well. And I will tell you the highlight of my trip. It hasn't been public yet. Maybe it'll become public now. We had a meeting with President Herzog, the president of Israel. We went around the room. He's looking at everyone. They say, here's Randy Fine. He goes, Randy Fine, you're the loud one. Thank you. You're the one that makes everyone thinks that Republicans are Jewish. I took that as a high compliment. But I come back more determined than ever to make sure that we are fighting fights that are important. The first fight is fighting antisemitism. We should be able to be safe and practice our Judaism in private, in public, walking down the street, and we should be able to say with one unified voice that we are Americans and we are here to stay and we will continue to fight it. And I will bring the bills that I passed in Florida to the floors of the United States Congress to make sure that every Jewish person is safe. But the second thing is education. To make sure that how you choose to educate your children is your business and yours alone. It is not the government's business. It is not the governor of New York's business. If you want to educate your children in the Jewish faith, to continue to tell our story of thousands of years, that's up to you, and it is up to no one else. And in the same way that we've done universal school choice in Florida, I can plan to continue to fight to require universal school choice for every child in every school in every city in the United States. But anti-Semitism is one thing and education is another thing. But we have no higher calling, no higher duty to continue our tradition. Many of you know I'm not saying anything that everyone in the room probably knows this. But there are fewer Jews in this world today, even 80 years after the Holocaust, than there were before. And every time you bring a new Jewish life into this world, you are saying to those who tried to stamp us out over and over and over again over those thousands of years that we will not go quietly, that our faith and our people continue to grow. Now, some of us have the ability to have many, many children. God just snaps his finger and out they come. But some of us don't. And creating a child and bringing them into this world is not something that is elective. It is something that God himself wants us to do. And I will fight to make sure that IVF is required to be covered in every single health plan that we have in the United States. Wow. I'm going to have to show this to my children. Say, guys, there are some people who like me out there. But all of these fights are not easy. I get a death threat almost every day. They try to silence me. They call me names. Even people inside my own party, even those that I serve with. See, the hatred of the Jews is under the surface for so many people. Not all, not most, but many. And they look for every excuse and they look for every reason. And they have found it in me. Because the nickname that I got when I was in the Florida legislature was the Hebrew Hammer. And it is because I am not willing to be quiet. I am not willing to apologize for who I am. I will continue to be fight and I will continue to be aggressive. But they are coming for me because I am a Jew who does not have trembling knees. I am one who is unafraid. And so I need all of you spiritually, politically, to stand with me and people who are like me to make sure that our voices continue to be heard. We will win this fight. We will win this fight together. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.